Hello, everybody.
We are alive.
We sure are. It's March 22nd today. We just wanted to record this video and give everyone an update. And we want to share some of our personal experiences living through this interesting time in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic, aka coronavirus.
Just to give you some premises, we are Canadians. If you're watching this for the first time, we're Canadians from Vancouver, BC, and we moved to the Netherlands in August of 2019. So we've been here for a couple months now, and yeah, we're it's smack in the middle of this pandemic, living here in the Netherlands, and so we thought we'd just provide our perspectives on what's going on right now and how it feels to be living abroad during this time away from our friends and families. 3 weeks ago, we were actually filming a ton of stuff. We were gonna create a video actually about our experiences working in the Netherlands here as a freelancer versus working in corporate. Anyways, that's what happened 3 weeks ago, and it was actually the beginning of the pandemic spread. And so in the Netherlands at that time, there were like 0 patients. And so it was mainly in Asia and in Italy at that time. And so people knew it was happening, but we didn't really come across it in the Netherlands at that very moment. But as days went by, we heard more and more cases happening in the Netherlands, and then it started growing and snowballing. And in fact, was it 2 weeks ago on Monday?
2 weeks ago.
I actually fell very sick myself. I caught what I think was just the common flu. And so at that very moment, the Netherlands probably had a couple hundred cases, maybe like 200 cases. It was very low, considerably low numbers at the time. People knew of it, some people still didn't, but everything was still operationally normal, business as usual, work as usual, school as usual in the Netherlands at that time when I caught my flu. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about that experience or that week very briefly with in this video, because it was a very it was a weird period in time where we knew a lot about the virus because we had family in Canada, we had family in Asia, we read world news, and so we weren't relying on understanding what was happening just by the Dutch news, which didn't really talk about it at that time. But anyways, I got super sick. I had the flu. I had every single flu symptom you had, high fever for 4 days, coughing, phlegm though, and it was a wet cough, and I was just ill, completely ill. So on the second day, we were very, very nervous that I had the virus, because we, at that moment, didn't know what the symptoms of the virus were, and we didn't know how different it was from the cold or the flu, since there were a lot of similarities between the two. So I actually, we called my family doctor to see if I can see him or talk to somebody, just to understand if I had the virus or not, or if I needed to get treatment of some sort, even if it was the flu, because I've never actually personally had the flu before, so I didn't know if I was supposed to take antibiotics or whatever you usually do for the flu. The doctor ended up asking us to come in, and so we went. And at that moment, I was actually really afraid to walk out the door. I was coughing a lot, and so I was nervous about racism on the streets and people judging me that I was coughing, and I looked very sickly for sure. And I was nervous to give it to other people because I didn't know if I had the virus or not. And so it was just a time of being very afraid, I remember. And I went to the doctor's office, and to my surprise, nobody had any face mask on. The doctor was so casual though. Personally, I felt the doctor didn't really care for how sickly I felt, and I kept asking like, do you think I have the virus? Do you have and they're like, no, you probably don't, and like they don't allow tests. I don't know at this very point if they still allow tests for anybody who has the symptoms, but they don't, at that point, they didn't allow tests on people who didn't come from Italy or high risk areas like Asia, or like physically I have to have traveled there or been
in contact with someone who has been from there.
Yeah. And so I clearly wasn't. So even though I was having a lot of the similar symptoms, I couldn't get tested. And that was really upsetting to me because I felt like they didn't care, even though I felt like I was dying. Like all I could do at that moment was to just trust them, even though I felt like they were underplaying my symptoms. That's just how I personally felt. I mean, whenever you're fallen sick, obviously you feel like a victim, no matter what other people say. So that was probably just what was going on in my head at that time. We went home. I got increasingly more sick that night. I started coughing up phlegm, and it was so bad I couldn't breathe when I was coughing. Wet cough though. As you know, coronavirus, people say it's dry cough. So, I mean, yeah. I was struggling that night and we were so worried. Thankfully, we had a friend here whose husband is a doctor, and so I got to call him to kind of like ask him, you know, all the questions that I had. Yeah, we kind of came to the conclusion that I probably didn't have the virus. But anyways, I was so afraid to go to sleep that night because I couldn't breathe at times. I did end up calling the hospital doctor, which I was hoping to get a better diagnosis or maybe get tested again. Again, we were asked to go in. We went into the hospital doctor eventually, and again, I came out with just paracetamol, which is painkillers, and just like telling me that I will survive. And so it was very upsetting, but eventually I did get through the night and I did get through that week. It was one of the most horrible weeks we've had because all we were seeing in the media were numbers rising, deaths rising, media going crazy. That's all we ever heard. That's all I ever felt because I was in the middle of the sickness and I was waking up to the virus and sleeping to the virus. I couldn't sleep for days and days and hours, and it was just like a miserable week for me. So that was 2 weeks ago.
Cheryl got sick about a week before the Netherlands officially went on lockdown, and that was because the Prime Minister of the Netherlands spoke to the nation to talk about the three options, and the option that the country is approaching is the herd immunity. So what that means is the country is expecting about 60 to 70% of the population to actually eventually get the virus and then build immunity. However, this approach is very different than what Cheryl and I have seen across the world, especially in Canada and the United States.
Now, I don't know if it's like a different approach per se, because it's still the same type of complete control, not complete lockdown. So in the Netherlands, just to clarify, they're calling it complete control because most of every establishment is closed right now, including schools and everything. But we're still having the freedom to go out at any time we want, go to the grocery store, go to the doctor at our own freedom. And so
you can even go out for a walk in the park.
Yeah, and there's no restrictions on that. So that's what they mean by complete control, as opposed to like complete lockdown as in Italy and Wuhan or other places in China. And so the approach seems to be similar to I'm only going to speak to Canada because that's where we're from. The approach seems to be similar. They're just labeling it differently in terms of calling it herd immunity, because they expect that by doing this kind of control, it would result in herd immunity of around 60% of people getting the virus and getting cured from the virus, so that we can all come out with a lower chance of getting the virus for the second time. That's kind of their.
Well, who knows if
Yeah.
it's for sure or scientifically proven that if you get the virus the first time, that you're immune to it in the future. I'm not sure that's actually been proven.
I don't think so, but we are kind of seeing this because we're not experts and we don't know what the right way is, and we're not saying that we don't agree with this approach. We just feel like they're making it sound very different from how the rest of the world is approaching it, and we're worried that these differences can cause delays in us to be able to cross borders to get home eventually.
Well, then we do have travel plans to go back to Canada in June and July.
Yeah.
And at this time, it's still too early to say.
I guess what I'm most afraid of is by the time June comes along, or maybe later on in the summer, if travel bans are released in Canada, maybe because they went on full lockdown, this is all hypothetical, but if Canada went on full lockdown right now and by June or July, the pandemic is lifted and travel bans are lifted, but then if the Netherlands continues to try to get a result of 60 people cured from the pandemic or the virus, it might take longer for us to achieve that release of travel bans. So in that hypothetical scenario, it could affect our risk of being able to go back home because we're from the Netherlands and because we're coming from a different approach. So that's kind of like our biggest worry right now in terms of the result of these differences in governmental policies right now. And so I think that's like one of the most nerve-wracking things of being abroad right now in terms of like being away from our families. There is no other, like, there's nothing more that I want right now than to be close to my family right now in Canada.
Even though we wouldn't be able to see them in person anyways, but just having the understanding and the option that we're close in proximity is more reassuring.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point to make. Yeah, so I guess we just wanted to kind of bring our sentiment or our voices to this situation of Canadians being abroad right now during this time, because I think more of what we're nervous about is more of the, I guess, the psychosocial kind of aspect of what's happening as a result of being away right now. It sucks. It really sucks. Like, just the fact that I wanted to talk about how we decided to move to the Netherlands because we wanted to live a different cultural lifestyle. We wanted to meet new people. We wanted to experience the world and be closer to the rest of Europe so we can travel. And so being in this specific scenario right now where we have to be self-isolated and stay at home, I've personally felt a little bit distant from our purpose of why we wanted to move here in the first place. Like, I could live my current lifestyle of working from home, having my business in Canada right now, and it would make no difference. So I guess, like, mentally, I almost feel I've lost my purpose of why we are even here right now, being away from our friends and family, just during this pandemic. And I'm hoping that I'm just being like overly sensitive about this because it's going to be a short-term thing and it'll pass by. But if this lifestyle becomes a long-term new world for us, let's just say in the next half a year and the next year, if this continues to be the way we live, for this pandemic to, to go away, then I just feel like I've lost my purpose a little bit in terms of why I'm here right now. Yeah, so
we gotta be mindful that this is bigger than us. This is a global pandemic, and there's people out there who are suffering way more than us, which leads to our next part of this video is like there are some positives out of this situation. Like, for one, supermarkets are still open. we also have the ability and luxury to work from home.
Yeah.
So as a freelancer, she's already worked from home. I did have the option to work from home maybe once or twice a week, but now it's full-time, and that's, for me, that's the luxury, because I know there's a lot of service-based jobs out there that people can't work from home. In fact, those restaurants and cafes are shut down right now. So there's a lot of people who are struggling.
Yeah, we definitely have the privilege of being able to, you know, continue our careers at this very moment. I mean, it's definitely impacted my business. I am a small business and I work with small businesses who are currently impacted. So in the short term, it hasn't affected me too much, but for the next month, I am seeing some difficulty in terms of how to find new clients and continue supporting my clients in that way, just because there has been halts in a lot of businesses that I work with now. And so yeah, we are definitely in a privileged spot right now, just because we can continue making money, and it hasn't affected us financially at this very moment yet. But we just want to make this video to kind of talk about what's happening right now, and give our hearts to people who are, you know, in the front lines right now, helping us with, you know, whether you're a researcher or a doctor or a nurse, or work at the grocery store, or work for daycare.
We owe you all a big thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We also wanted to create this video because we wanted to help people understand how serious this situation is, especially back home in North America. We are over the almost 4,000 patients in the Netherlands within 2 weeks. We went from 0 patients to like
4,000,
literally 4,000 in 2 weeks, and so 2.5 weeks. And so it snowballs very, very quickly, and it gets very serious very quickly. So if you're still at home and you're still going out and seeing friends and hanging out outside and thinking that this isn't going to affect you and your lives, it's just a matter of time. And so please stay at home.
Practice social distancing.
And the faster we follow those guidelines, the faster that we can get through this pandemic, and the faster we're gonna be able to come home. So please do your part, and please stay at home. That's pretty much all we want to say. So thank you so much for watching this video. Sorry it is a bit of a more serious toned video, but we're really hoping that we're opening up conversations in terms of other North Americans who might be living abroad right now and how they might feel. And we want to hear from you. Like, if you feel like our perspective is different than yours, then please leave us a comment below. Tell us how you think. Maybe there's a more positive way to see this scenario or situation, or maybe there's something that we don't know or uneducated about right now that you'd like to share with us. We are getting most of our Dutch news from a few English sources. We're gonna put them below in the descriptions. There's 2 particular Facebook groups that we follow that have been translating all of the Dutch news right now. And so if there are more sources that are more reliable, that are English sources that you feel like should be shared, please also leave that in the comments below and let us know. But thank you so much for watching this video.
Hopefully you guys are doing well wherever you guys are watching. We're gonna end this video by showing some highlights of some things that we got up to 3 weeks ago before this pandemic, just to take your mind off of what's happening in this world.
All right, see
Talk
you
to
guys.
soon.
Bye.
Bye. Monday morning, we made it.
Good morning. Here we are, Barcelona. It was a wild ride, but very
Quickly
excited to be here.
summarize what happened last night with you. Because you were flying in from Paris.
Flight got canceled. I had to rebook on a different flight. That then couldn't happen, so then I had to rebook on a different flight, and so I ran between 3 terminals last night at the Charles de Gaulle Airport in France.
And this was a span of
This was a span of about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So I got in around 11:30 last night, so just pretty tired, but pretty happy to be here.
Yeah, we made it. So this is the first full day in Barcelona, Monday morning.
Yeah, breakfast, we gotta eat good.
And then, yeah, hopefully the work day is not too hard, so we can live it up afterwards.
Exactly, enjoy tonight.
Yeah.
We are going to Timmy's, what's up? Sylvia almost died.
We're showing this girl some Canadian
have no
culture.
idea. Yeah, no idea about what is Canadian donuts.
We're gonna get you an ice cap and then we're gonna get you a donut.
All right.
But this one is nice.
Taste of home.
Alright, so we got the apple fritter, the honey cruller. We're gonna flip it over so we can see the goodness of it, the honey cruller. And Sylvia's choice of the blonde Oreo.
And the ice cap, which is an ice cappuccino at Tim Hortons.
I also got one.
Alright, and I will drink theirs because I'm smart.
Alright, cheers.
Cheers.
Alright,
Enjoy.
let's do this.
Come on.
This tastes just like the one in Canada.
Okay, first bite of the donut.
Show me the face.
Very good. Very good.
Well, that's good.
All right.
Give me the history of Tim Hortons.
Alright, with the apple fritter in my hand. Tim Horton was a Canadian ice hockey player. He played for multiple ice hockey teams, but most notably with the Toronto Maple Leafs. In 1964, he opened up his first donut shop in Hamilton, Ontario. And then in 4 years' time, it became a multi-million dollar franchise. And after taking a few bites of the donut, Sylvia, what do you think?
It's definitely better than the Dunkin' Donuts.
That's right, you heard it here first. Better than Dunkin' Donuts.
Where's our next stop?
We're going to Cha Time. Always gotta get some bubble tea.
Oh, can't get this in Amsterdam. Can't get this there. That's where we're going. Alright, we got our orders. Got the roasted milk tea with pearls, and what'd you get?
Grapefruit QQ.
Grapefruit QQ,
Every single
nice,
QQ that I
nice. One thing Amsterdam doesn't have is Cha Time.
This is so good. Sorry, Cheryl. I know you're jealous. So we just finished day 2 of our work training.
Yeah, celebrating by a couple beers,
A bit exhausting. It's like 8 hours of straight training.
but we made it, and that's all that matters.
So yeah, we're just waiting for some of our coworkers to come and hang out with us before we head for dinner.
We don't hang out 24/7, trust us. There's other people that come too.
Yeah.